Hello everyone, Mortai here. I just wanted to kind of do a little special video just to kind of give my kind of thoughts on how to communicate in BG Blitz. It's just going to be some basic communication, nothing like calling out strategies or targets or anything like that. But I just kind of wanted to give my basic rules of how I communicate in BGs. I did kind of send out or put out or ask this question on Reddit, on Twitter, and on the World of Warcraft PvP forums of how people communicate in non-voice situations like Rated Show Shuffle and BG Blitz. The answers I got back weren't very good. There's a lot of trolly answers. Don't respond because people will report you. Everybody's a snowflake, those kind of things. So it was a little discouraging in that regard. I did get a few good ones, so I'm going to kind of use those in here and kind of integrate them in. First thing I kind of want to talk about is being vocal. Obviously, being vocal does not mean in voice, unless maybe you're queuing duo with a healer, which you might be in voice for that. But otherwise, being vocal just means letting people know what you're doing, like where you are on the map, where you're going, if you need help, how many people are incoming to, say, if you're at a base in Arathi Basin or in Battle for Garneas, Deepwind Gorge, let people know how many people are coming. Just those kind of basic things for being vocal. Don't afraid to let people know in chat what is going on, what you're doing, what you're seeing. Just don't be afraid to do that. The other thing is to be confident, and being confident also doesn't mean just with the be doing those things that I said before. Be confident in what you're doing. Don't be afraid to take criticism or to ask questions as well. The biggest thing I see is people seem to be very afraid to ask questions. They may get because they're afraid of getting trolled or somebody yelling at them or something like that. Don't worry about that stuff because there's most likely somebody in the chat's going to answer your question. You might get a few trolly answers from people, but there's usually going to be somebody from, in my experience, it's going to answer the question for you. So just be confident when you ask questions. Don't be afraid to do it because that's going to help you in the long run. It's going to help your team in the long run. It's going to help the game mode in the long run. The other thing is if you're confident in how these maps work, don't be afraid to give directions to people. I know that's something I do. I'm pretty confident and know how these maps work. I may not be the best player in the world, but I've done so many BGs and done so many of these now. I'm pretty confident in how they work. So I'm not afraid to give directions in chat at the beginning of the match as well. Also, do not be afraid to give directions to people. Ask what's going on. If you see, let's say on Silver Shard Mines, you have a rogue or a DH tank, don't be afraid to say, hey, can you go off carts? The rest of the team go lava, something like that. Just don't be afraid to give directions as well. And again, this kind of goes back to the being confident thing. Ask questions. If you see something that you're not familiar with or something that's confusing you on the map, don't be afraid to ask that question. Again, there's always going to be, I would say 90% of the time, there's going to be somebody in the chat that will answer the question for you, or at least try to. I know I do if people ask questions, and I wish more people will ask questions because with this mode, I see this a lot. There seems to be a lot of people that don't know how the BG mode works because the maps are quite different for the most part. Yeah, so just be sure to ask questions. Now, so this is something I see a lot in any kind of PvP mode or just in WoW in general. Don't overreact to what somebody says in chat. If someone is, because you have to remember in a chat setting, most people are going to be typing short, blunt sentences that may look like they're being aggressive, but for the most part, they're just trying to get something out so they can communicate. They're obviously not going to type out a whole long sentence. Some people may, and some people try, but I know when I communicate, it's just short, blunt sentences. Like if I see too many people fighting in the road, it's stop fighting in the road. If I see people, if I need help at, say, a base, like at stables, it's come help ST, where are you guys, ST, just things like that. It's just short, blunt sentences. Again, some of the times they may seem aggressive, especially if they include your name in it. If they say somebody says, hey, Mortai, what are you doing at X base? We don't need you there. Don't take that personally. That, especially if you know, I mean, if you are there for a reason, let them know why you're there. If they don't agree with it, they don't agree with it. But don't overreact to it. People are not going to always agree in these battlegrounds either. What I see a lot of times is when people react to certain communication in chat, it devolves into something really toxic. Just because, again, I see a lot where people accuse somebody of being toxic just from just from the way they're communicating, which is usually short, blunt sentences, like I said, and it evolves into something toxic. They call the person toxic, the other person overreacts to it, etc., and then it just devolves. And of course, you are going to be dealing with toxicity as well, which is just unfortunately, especially in a PvP environment. My advice when it comes to this is just do not react to it at all. Block the person. If it's something really vulgar, report the person. Unfortunately, there's just going to be these players, especially in a competitive environment. People get frustrated, and sometimes people are just really nasty people. Will say anything to get under your skin, and you just have to learn not to react to that, because what ends up happening is when you do, it just ends up being a chat full of people yelling at each other back and forth, and it becomes harder and harder to communicate with people because chat is the way you communicate in BG Blitz for the most part. So you just have to learn to kind of move on for that. It's frustrating. It can be, especially if it's a nasty thing, it can be very, very upsetting. But again, reacting to it is only going to make that person do it again or do it more or react back to you. And it's just going to devolve into a chat full of people yelling at each other. So that's kind of my approach to toxicity. I just don't respond to it for the most part. I can't say I'm perfect. Sometimes I do, especially if I'm frustrated, but for the most part, you just got to move on from it. It's just an unfortunate thing. The last thing I kind of want to talk about is using the ping system. I don't see people using this enough. There are some people that use it, and when I'm in games where multiple people are using it, it works really well. You kind of can avoid having to type things out, and you ping something, either attack, assist, caution, which can mean incoming. There's just so many things that can be done with the ping system that makes it way easier than having to type everything out in chat. So I just want to see more people using that. It's definitely a new thing to World of Warcraft, and it's even new to me. I'm still learning how to use it myself, where to bind it, what key binds, stuff like that. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning process, especially for the WoW community. Just not something that's ever been in the game. But yeah, I'll link some videos for the ping system in the description that you can kind of look at that kind of go over that. There's one that's really good from Skill Capped. It's more of an arena-based one, I think, but there's one other one too that I'll kind of post in there for you to look at too, to kind of get an idea of how the ping system works. But it's a really good tool, and it will make your life a lot easier during a Battleground Blitz, or even during a rated solo shuffle if you can communicate this way. It just makes everything way easier. So yeah, so that's just kind of some basic things of ways to communicate in Battleground Blitz. I think it doesn't sound amazing. It doesn't sound too involved. It doesn't sound like this revolutionary thing that I'm talking about here, but I think there's a lot of people that just don't want to communicate or feel scared to communicate or whatever it is. You just need to kind of do it, especially if this turns into a rated mode. You need to be able to do it in some capacity, just kind of, even if you don't have to be talking constantly. Some people will do that, but you don't have to be one of those people. Just basic communication, again, calling incomings. Maybe even you see a target that you want to see go down, like a healer or something that you see is making mistakes, but nobody's really attacking them. Let someone know and say, hey, this healer is doing this. We should attack them. Just things like that. You'll be surprised of how big of a difference that can make. I hear all the time from players that do rated solo shuffle, just simply calling their target before the game starts can make a difference. Because what ends up happening is the game starts and everybody's on a different target. So it doesn't always work. It won't always work. But if you're trying, I think you'll see a big difference. So yeah, this is just another short little BG Blitz video. This one about communication, like I said, the whole basis of the video. But if you have any questions, if you have ways that you communicate, what do you think of this video? Do you like my ideas? Whatever it is, just let me know in the comments. I want to do more videos of this, like this. I'm still getting comfortable, especially with kind of teaching videos like this, but I want to do more of it. So yeah, make sure you check out the links in the description for the ping system, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks.